Ladies and gentlemen, it's Birds of a Feather on A2D Radio, brought to you by Alonzi Travel, specializing in creating the vacation of your dreams at Disney, Universal, or wherever your heart calls you. Let their talented team of travel experts, including myself and Andy Ritz of In This Very Ring, create a custom vacation for you. It is Super Bowl week, gentlemen. The big game is coming up this Sunday, and we're here to talk about it. We'll talk some Eagles, of course, as usual, but the main focus is this Sunday's game. It's the big one, the biggest event in the country, sporting event in the country. Not even just sporting event, like biggest event. It's the single biggest event that we have throughout the year. So I'm excited. How about you guys? What's going on? You guys pumped for this Sunday, even though the Eagles aren't in it?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's the game we didn't want, but kind of predicted was going to be the game. I think a lot of us really wanted the Detroit Lions and the Ravens, but I mean, beggars can't be choosers. But it's football, so I'm not going to complain.
I just think it's funny that everyone in their mouth is like, "Oh man, Chiefs are done, man. It's over. It's not happening this year." And like, finds a way, man. You can't stop Mahomes.
Yep.
Our Jurassic Park. Life finds a way.
Yes, he does find a way.
I'm excited. It's the big game. Eagles are not. I'm always excited for the Super Bowl. And as a football fan, how could you not? How could you not be excited? But we'll talk about that. Pete should be coming on. If you notice something different, Pete's not doing the intros right now. He's not with us at the moment. He should be coming on. He's just running a little late, so he'll be joining us at some point. We'll see how long it takes for him to get here. But to kick off the show, we have our kickoff statement, which is the Eagles would be playing in Super Bowl 58 had Vic Fangio been their defensive coordinator like originally planned. Agree or disagree? PY, let's start it off with you. What do you think? Do you think this would have been a different story had we had the Uncle Vic as one Mr. Bensel likes to call him, Mr. Uncle Vic? Would we have been able to reach this big game if he had been here?
No. Like it's wishful thinking, and maybe it would have been like a better setup the way things were. But like even if let's say we won like a few more games, we won the division. Like I don't think we win a game. Like I really don't, because there's too many problems. Like corner was an issue, safety, everyone was hurt, the linebacker was a joke. Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat disappeared in the second half of the season. Like there's so many different issues that, as great as Fangio is, I don't think he's masking that. I don't think he was going to be able to make James Bradbury somehow not the worst cornerback in the league. I don't think he's going to be able to help you when you have nobody really at safety. I don't think he's going to be able to fix all the issues that you had at linebacker and all the issues you had in coverage and all these different things. Like, I think the coaching didn't help. I think the coaching killed it in a lot of ways, especially with how bad Patricia was in the second half and when he was DC. But I just think at the end of the day, it was a player situation. I think a lot of the problems came down to A, everyone was hurt, and B, the players just didn't put them. I don't think the players did a good enough job of putting themselves in positions to make plays and do what they needed to do. There would be so many times where we're watching games and they're not tackling. They're letting things go. They're running into each other. They're not playing smart. And obviously, maybe there's a chance that Fangio helps them a little bit more, but I just think there's just too many issues to overcome, even with Fangio.
Jake, what say you?
Yeah, Pete basically hit everything I was going to say on the head. It might have been maybe a little bit better, just because they'd be better coached, obviously. But I think at the end of the day, and we all agreed to it, even towards the end of the year, you have such a personnel issue on all sides of the defense. There's only so much you can do to really polish a turd, for lack of a better term. So, yeah, I'll disagree. Again, if we had Fangio, would the defense be a bit better? Yeah, but I think still the result's the same. I still think we lose in the first round of the playoffs.
It's gonna be unanimous. I think I won't disagree to the poll. I love the Vic Fangio hire. I would have loved it if he was here from the get go. So I think it would have made a difference. I think if you haven't been given the season, I think the defense does play a little bit better. I think a lot of the tackling issues, some of the undisciplined stuff in coverage, I don't think you'd be seeing them, especially later on in the year, regardless of personnel. Like, I think there are fundamental issues that our guys, our players had. There was a lack of execution, a lack of fundamentals that were there that weren't being coached well. I think one of the biggest things that we have to realize that Vic Fangio will bring in, because he's so experienced and he knows a lot about the little nuances, that kind of stuff is going to get fixed. So I think if he was here, he would have fixed. We would have seen an improved defense. However, we all did agree, and I even said from the get go when we started not playing well, was that it was more an issue of the players than it was the scheme.
Yep.
You know, I think that Desai gets a lot of flack, and he was far from perfect. And I know there's reports about him saying one thing or another, but I think we could agree he didn't do a horrible job. Like, I don't think he was that bad. I think that Desai, especially during the middle of the middle of the season stretch, there were a few games where he did really well considering the injuries we had on defense. You know, we had a lot of people hurt and out of the lineup, and considering that it was a very like patchwork defense, especially on the back end, especially if I remember correctly, the Miami game, like we had a lot of people out, and they were doing some really good stuff schematically. So I think Desai, he was far from great, but he wasn't horrible. I think though, Fangio being here would have made a difference. I think we could have had like possibly a top 15 to 20 defense if Fangio was here. I just don't think in the long run, the overall scope, if you're talking about making it to the Super Bowl, he would have been as much of an impact or enough of an impact to get this team over the hump to win 3 playoff games. I don't see it happening either. And I think that it doesn't change the fact that we had issues on offense that were neglected. And it doesn't change the fact that we just didn't have linebackers. Now, here's an interesting thing. If Fangio was the defensive coordinator from the get-go, would the Eagles have invested more in linebacker and safety than they did already?
Probably.
That's very possible. It's very, very possible.
That's like the one thing they talk about is like the two things that he loves in his scheme are confident linebackers and confident safeties.
Yeah, they ask a lot of the safeties. I think from my studying the scheme, I think that the pivotal position is safety, because I think you need 2 safeties who are interchangeable and who can do a lot. I think it's to a lesser degree linebacker, even though linebacker is still important because it helps in the middle of the defense. But I think safety is the one position where it's like, you need guys. I think that it leaks into another what if, but if Fangio was a guy from the get-go, what are their chances of us drafting Brian Branch over Nolan Smith? Like, do you think that happens? I'm not going to say it's likely, but who knows? Like, maybe that is a thing. Maybe. Or maybe we do invest more in linebacker going into the season. And if we do, then that's the butterfly effect, right? That I always talk about. If we do that, maybe the defense looks a lot better. And then maybe it's able to mask some things for the offense later on in the year that we saw that the defense just couldn't do. So who knows? I don't know for sure. To get to the Super Bowl, I don't think it happens. But we could have seen definitely a much improved team overall than what we saw. Like, I don't think we would have seen a collapse. But who knows? So I disagree to the poll.
Guess we'll never know.
Mr. OGP, glad to have you on. Hope you're doing rock and roll. We all just answered the poll, the kickoff statement. So you can give your thoughts. We all disagreed. So what do you think?
Yeah, so it's such a loaded question, right? First and foremost, Hope my boys are doing well. Hope the fam is doing well. Yeah, so many things would have to go right. I mean, I think it's easy enough to say that they definitely been in a better position. I honestly think they would have made it farther if they didn't get rid of Desai, and it's like Desai is kind of paying it. But I mean, if Fangio was here from the beginning, after the Super Bowl loss, Gannon goes to Arizona, Fangio stays. The personnel decisions I think are different. So I would say it's probably a 60% chance they're playing in the Super Bowl, which is greater than 50%. So I'll be the lone agree. I'll be the lone agree.
Okay.
Because he knows the system inside and out. Hell, he created it. He could have did a stopgap there somewhere to maybe not give up a 92-yard Drew Lock game-winning drive, not give up a game-winning drive to Kyler Murray, be able to manufacture a stop there. So ultimately, if you take those two losses, you turn them into wins, you really just got to find maybe 1-2 more. You know what I mean? It definitely would have been 1-5. I think with Fangio, I would say this. With Fangio, I think the record is no worse than 14-3. So you still you're right up there with the Niners at that point, right? Right up there with the Niners at that point. But you just feel a lot better. So you host a playoff game for sure. And then who knows where the road leads you there, right? But here's the thing. I would always say this, and we kind of said this before, is they needed to blow it up. I said it before the Tampa Bay game. So it hurts my heart to say it, but they need to get embarrassed to really change the ideology and the philosophy. Yep. I think with Fangio, things would have been better, but I don't know if the deep-rooted changes that needed to be made and the self-reflection happens if this doesn't happen. So it's a wound that hurts right now, that hurt 2 or 3 weeks ago. But I think now we're going to be better coming from it. You know what I mean? Because I think lessons have been learned. And while you don't have to sit here and go spend high capital in a safety, high capital in a linebacker, you can't just shy it away and pick up guys in August and expect them to be main contributors to your team. You have to put a little bit more thought into it than that and a little bit more resources into it than that. And they did do it when the Kobe Dean, he just didn't pan out. But at the safety position, I mean, listen, I love Reed. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But you can't you literally let 2 position group starters just walk out the door. Well, and contracts not even offered. Not we can say that about maybe one position group player. You let 2 whole position group starters walk out your door for nothing. For nothing. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things to where it's like, dude, like you can't make that mistake again. So if you had this is where Fangio is going to come. It's like, listen, we just can't have that. Like I could cover up a lot of things. I can cover up maybe a less significant pass rush. I can cover up maybe a less significant corner play, which his scheme can kind of hide. But you can't. His safeties and pretty much his linebackers to a point too, you can kind of hide. But his safeties is on Front Street. His safeties are the reason why the whole thing goes right. Yep. So you can't do that. So. I don't know. But here's the thing. Also, at the same time, right? If Fangio is here, do Marcus Epps and Chauncey walk out the door?
Chauncey, yes.
I think Chauncey, yes. I think Epps, maybe.
I think Epps is still here, in my opinion.
Right. I think Epps and Edwards are still here. So that's 2 out of the 4 that you
I don't think Edwards is still here. Okay. I think no matter what, I think you could have offered him $100 million contract, and I think he would have left because no matter. Because here's the thing: 10 minutes into free agency, it's not like it's a day and you still have some time to figure it out. 10 minutes, you've already made that decision. If 10 minutes,
remember you got the whole
you're already there.
What's the week? So the week after the Super Bowl is the Combine week. That's really, I say that's the start of free agency for me.
Yep.
Because that's where the talks start happening. That's where the agents, because this is the thing, the agents are representing current players while also representing incoming players. So those incumbent players, you're there for them, but you're also willing and dealing for your guys to gauge who has interest in your guys that are already on your roster that come up 3 weeks later to start a free agency, who are going to get those calls. And let's not even count the bullshit 48-hour window than where deals actually get announced. You know what I mean? So,
I just think he knew he wasn't coming back. He probably
I mean, but that's to get to that point. Why they had to know in February, right after the Super Bowl, a week or two after that, maybe the interest just wasn't there from the Eagles, and that's where Howie just has to say, like, yo, like, just in general, you can't put the resources in older players when you got younger players who are hungrier, who actually outplayed their contracts. Like Epps, Kaiser White, TJ Edwards, and Chauncey overplayed what they were actually paid. Those are the guys that you want to sign. You don't want to re-sign guys who may be showing a decline at the position. And as analytical as this organization is, anybody can see a cornerback at the age of 30 starts to decline, but yet let's pay him more money. So, like, just the decisions that were made, I don't know how much a defensive coordinator would have played into those decisions, but more of a senior voice who has seen it all. It's like, listen, I can't really just – and we all heard Fangio's a no-nonsense type of dude. You know what I mean? So it's like, hey, listen, like, Howie, like, I can't do this. Like, even if he didn't say it directly to Howie, he would have said it to Nick, and then Nick probably would have took that back to Howie. There would have been some type of sentiment said about how Fangio felt. And not to take anything away from Sean Desai, but once again, this is your first real on leaving a location, not getting promoted from within the organization that you're already with, like he did with Chicago. This is taking a step up from where you were at Seattle. Now you're running the ship. You could already kind of see he was walking on eggshells. He didn't really feel like he could be in his own 2 feet. He could stand on his own 2 feet. He was very, very reserved, right? When it comes to how he feels things that weren't going his way from a personnel position. But now also take that and we kind of hear like, man, he was just coaching to his scheme regardless of what the player strength was. So that was that fault. So it was like a dude that was kind of in over his head a little bit. But even with that being said, the linebackers were shit all year, but when we played the Dolphins, which we held them to 10 points or 17 points. You see what I'm saying? So it's like something was there, and I just don't know. But which makes me think even now more that not only was the side move coming from upstairs, but I think it was also coming from inside that locker room.
Yep.
I think some of those players inside that locker room had just had enough. And it was just like, dude, we can't keep doing this. Like something has to change. And it's also telling from the fact of once the switch was made, I think the most damning thing about it was he wasn't even on the sideline anymore. He was as far away from the players as he could be without being outside, without being
up in the booth.
Yep.
He's upstairs.
It was almost like, look, we can't even look at this dude no more. Regardless, so you 10-1 and your players can't even look at you. Lord knows what that feeling had to be like in practice. It had to be strife. It had to be tension.
Well, and the report was too. There was a report that came out, I think, a couple of days ago, to where I think they said over a dozen players on the defense. It got to a point to where they kept suggesting things to Desai, and he just kept pushing them off. So they're like, "All right, if you're not going to listen to me, I'm not going to talk to you anymore." They just gave him the cold shoulder after a while, and that's just
like especially with some of these guys who are big for the Super Bowl team the year before. Like you're not listening to what these guys have to say, especially, and some of them are like they're longtime veterans who've been here since like 2017. Like you're not listening to what they have to say. You're not listening to Darius Slay. You're not listening to Avonte Maddox. You're not listening to Hassan Reddick. Like what is this? Like you are a young, very inexperienced coach for the most part. Like how are you seasoned enough to not listen to what your guys are trying to tell you? It's like Malcolm a few years ago. He went to Jim Schwartz and he was just like, this is too complicated. We need to slow it down to get things right. And Jim, well, I have a up and down relationship with Jim Schwartz, but he was a good enough coach where he listened.
Yeah. And I think the red flag should have been too for a lot of us when that report about Kevin Byard came out, where he's like, "Oh, we're just gonna do our own scout team this week." But now, obviously,
that thing.
But
that thing.
It is what it is.
You get some comments in the chat.
Hold on, before you do that, for PY to say his Jim Schwartz, he has an up and down relationship. I think he meant to say an up and down opinion of Jim Schwartz. Relationship like you know this bitch personally, like. I'm just saying, Jim Schwartz would eat you alive.
He'd break his hip.
God.
And once he found out you had stamina too from all the working out you've been doing, you're gonna be running. You're gonna be running.
I can do that now.
Let's get to the chat. So Martian says maybe how he trades for Justin Simmons to the Bayern if Fangio was the DC. Joshua says even if the defense was a little better, the offense couldn't get past the blitz to save their life, which is a fair point. Martian thinks that Edger and Cooper is incoming. Gray Miller disagrees to the poll because the offensive side of the ball was awful without Shane Steichen.
I don't agree with that.
They were stagnant.
Daily.
They were stagnant, but not
They're stagnant. Like they were still like. Was the offense where I wanted it to be? No, but they were still like top 10, like every statistical category. Like they were a good offense. They just weren't where they should have been.
Right.
Daly says, gonna agree to the poll. Do you think Vic has an ability to not just come up with a good scheme, but a good ability to coach up players? Wilson says, what's up? Daly follows it up and saying there was also something about the side that the players didn't like or want to play for. Kind of what we were alluding to. Wilson does disagree to the poll. We have personal issues on defense, and our offense stunk the last 2 months. Yeah, Greg comes in and chimes in also says disagree. He disagrees to the poll. There were a lot of issues, hammered down to just one. Martin says Kevin Byard ordered pizza and wings for the players only meeting. So that's what we got.
That's a great teammate.
It's a good thing to ponder. Now, some other what if scenarios. Now, I'll throw this one at you guys. It's kind of like what we kind of like. It's putting my concerns from when I was out on the Eagles. And if you guys remember, I've said it ad nauseum. I was out on the Eagles after the Seahawks loss.
Mm-hmm.
So, what if Nick did make changes to the offense after during the Seattle game?
Mm-hmm.
What if he started incorporating hot routes to beat the blitz and did tweak some other stuff about the scheme? Maybe not a total overhaul. It's impossible to do a total overhaul mid-season. But mainly against the blitz, hot routes. What if he added that during the Seattle game, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh shoot, they're doing it. They're attacking the middle of the field. Do you think that's enough for them to? I don't know. I don't want to say get to the Super Bowl, but let's say. Do you think that would have been enough for them to hang on to the number 1 or 2 seed and then win at least one playoff game? What do you think?
Maybe.
Yes. I think so, because it would have made the defenses be more honest, which is going to put you in advantageous looks for your skill position players and that talent that you rely so heavily on to have more winnable opportunities. So I think incorporating something like that would get them at least through the divisional round, and they probably would have played in the conference championship. I don't know if they win it, but they probably been playing championships. Conference championship.
Yeah. Jake, PY.
Yeah, I think, and again, it depends on what exactly does get changed, but we would have taken any type of change to be honest the last couple of weeks of the season. So, it definitely would have improved. Again, how far we go, who knows? It's all up for speculation, but again, like I said earlier, we have Kellen Moore. It is what it is now. I'm not complaining. So,
yeah, unless the change was demoting Brian Johnson and pulling a Buffalo Bills situation, I just don't think like the small things would have changed anything, because the problems still would have been there. It would have been like a few better options, but like you just couldn't at that point. Like Brian Johnson's thing was just not working. Like the offense was not working, and he could not find a rhythm no matter what he did. So,
right. Does that go to show at what point at what point is it with Nick to where he should have cut bait? Where he at what point do we all think the moment the light bulb went off in his head and said, "Okay, I fucked up"? These coordinators, these guys ain't it. Like how early into the season, or what play was it? What game was it when he realized, like, oh,
that's a good question. I didn't even think about that on the offensive side.
I'm pretty sure I can pinpoint the defensive side.
Yeah, I can pinpoint the defense, not the offense.
The Washington football game, the one that went to overtime.
The first one or the second one?
The first one that went to overtime.
Okay.
Where he's
that's
just like,
early.
Yes. Remember, this started the first game they're playing against the Patriots, and they should have been beating them by 30. And this is a competitive.
It's early in the season.
I understand that, but you didn't expect the defense.
I don't know. That's really early.
I'm not saying that was the moment, but it didn't start well, and that just continued all the way into.
Did Mac Jones ever look as competent as he did?
No.
The rest of his tenure as a starter. So I will say though, like first week one, all the build up, all the game plan, I get it. I would say, and to give you guys more time to think, I would say probably from the offensive side, I would probably say it was Jets game.
Yep.
Even though the Jets had a decent defense, that was the first time where I think Sirianni's like, okay, this dude has no answers to the blitz whatsoever, because that's all the Jets did. And you have 4 or 5 turnovers, and we're still jumping back trying to throw the ball. Like, he can't pivot to a feel of the game just to try to run the ball and get out of this game with a win. Mm-hmm. So I think that was the start. And then I'm also with PY too. Like the Washington Commanders games, it was like when you have dudes who are at the quarterback position of the opposing team have their best performance of the season statistically wise against your defense issue, and then other defenses that we struggled with that were giving up points per game way higher than what we actually somewhat scored at this deficiency. You know what I mean?
Sam Howell was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league this year, except for when he played against us. He was Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I think that I that early in the year, I think with 2 new coordinators, I think it's tough to say, like, if you want to say, like, there were inklings of, okay, like, they're struggling a bit. Yeah, of course. I think that's obvious. I think if you're specifically talking about, if you're specifically talking about thoughts that this was a mistake and I don't think they're going to last beyond the season, I don't think it's fair to say that early. Like, I would have maybe given you the second Washington game when you're just like this defense can't figure, like they're making what's the QB's name?
Sam Howell.
Sam
Howell. They're making Sam Howell for the second game look incredible. Like I can give you that, but the first one I can't agree with that because it was still so early, and it's just like I think that there are always going to be struggles and ebbs and flows of the season, and in the beginning of the year, how you look doesn't always mean that's how you're going to look later in the year. I mean, look at Fangio, right? That Dolphins defense wasn't that good at the beginning of the year because they were still learning, and then second half of the year, even with injuries, that Dolphins defense was a top 10 defense.
And they hated him for it, and they still had success.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I can't say that early in the year was when he started to have regrets. I think it had to have been. It had to have started to creep in at the middle of the year in certain performances. I think for the offensive coordinator thing, it had to have been the beginning of that slide. I think that the Cowboys game or Seahawks game was just like, all right, what's going on here, right? What's going on here? And I think the answer for Desai is obvious. I think after the Cowboys loss, because that's when he got fired. Well, not fired, but like that's when he lost.
Didn't they say it was after the? Didn't they say they started to look at him after the Week 10 win?
I don't know if that's the case.
I thought
it was after the Cowboys loss.
That's what I thought too.
I thought it was like they started to have inklings before, but I also think like just imagine where we said Nick aged so much this year during the season. It just sounds like there was a very stressful environment. But
I'm sure
him being a coach's son, coming from a coach's family, I think he's more inclined to want to give coaches the last bit of doubt versus the players, because you could really see how broken up he was in the press conference that we finally got to end the season, right? A week after, on that Wednesday, where he was just like telling the family, even when the conversation wasn't going towards the coaches and the families affected by the coaches being let go, like he himself brought it back to that, because I think he's just a coach's kid, being a coach's son. Your brothers are coaches, you know what I mean? I don't think he's the youngest, but he's also not the oldest brother. But just being in that environment and know what that means and know what a coach brings home with him, and knowing that impact, I just think that he didn't help himself at all this year. You know what I mean? No. And it really was just kind of like, hey, if you would have did this earlier in the year, could this cut bait? It's just, and I will say this. It looks like he's a person who knows his weaknesses and he knows his strengths. Yeah. He knows he's not a good. If all he had to do was call the game plan and install the offense and call it during the game, cool. I think he'd be good at that. But being the fact that he has to manage this, knowing when to challenge, do this, do that, do this, do that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things to where it's just maybe not the most conducive for him, and he has to learn. So even me, myself, who I was the first one in the move on from Sirianni boat by myself, Jake was kind of halfway in, halfway out. Even now, removing myself from that, it's almost like just on a human level, you're just like, yo, this dude was going through a lot. Yeah. Now, it sucks that you was going through a lot and you had to learn your growing pains with my time and my effort and my emotions involved in this shit. You feel what I'm saying? But it's like, all right, now I get it. Okay, you had that. That was your one freebie. That was your 1 6-game record where you had a 1-5 slot. That can't happen again.
No.
You know what I mean? So,
but I mean, we'll see, right? And I think with certain coaches that they did bring in, I can also see if things do go bad, which I don't anticipate at the beginning of the year. Say hypothetically we go 0-4 at the beginning of the year, and then we just fire Nick Sirianni in the middle of the season. I mean, you have Kellen Moore right there. You brought him in a couple of years ago to be a head coach, to interview for a head coaching spot. So, God forbid if the ship theoretically sinks, you have your guy in place, at least for the interim, to take that spot. So, I mean, I think they're checking all their windows, doors, whatever part of the house you want to look at.
They're doing a full-out cavity inspection.
Just a full remodel, yeah.
Every nook and cranny is getting checked because
it should.
And I think similar pressure is going to be on him this year in this upcoming season, but it's going to be a little bit different because if we all realize now, like the spotlight is on him immensely. Immensely, the spotlight is on him. You can't really hide from it because last year you could sit here and say, okay, all the talk was, well, they lost Shane Steichen, they lost Jonathan Gannon. Now he has to do it with new coordinators, and the whole team has to do it. How Shannon's going to do it? Okay, now it ain't that. I mean, and also at the same time, like it wasn't like Fangio had a bad season where his team underperformed. Everybody knows around the league, like, hey, like, listen, this dude literally coached a team that had like or was on our 4th or 5th string players.
Yeah,
right. And Kellen, he lost Justin Herbert. Austin Eckler was down. They sorely should have drafted Zay Flowers over Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, Keenan Allen was hurt a good portion of the season.
He's always hurt, but he's not always hurt, but he's hurt. So, and then honestly, if Fangio was younger, or the one team that probably could have talked them out was probably Harbaugh. Because remember when Harbaugh was in San Fran, Fangio was his guy. But Fangio just that desire to want to come back closer to home and be closer to his family at this stage in his life, because I think he's 65. I think he'll be 66 this year.
Fangio, I think he is 65.
65, because I think he's more than 58. So it's one of those things. But could you theoretically see them moving on from Sirianni to bring in Kellen Moore? But once again, you're elevating somebody who now has to do more, right? So it's just going to be a lot more professional. It's going to be a lot more accountability.
More adults in the room.
Yes.
I love.
Yes.
That was my one thing. What did I always tell you? Like for the longest time after the season is over, I need adults. I need experience. And they went out and they got everything. And I love what they're doing with Fangio's staff. They're just going out and getting guys who either played or has experience in his system who are going to be able to help him. Like they're probably going to go out and get Mike Caldwell as their linebacker coach because Joe Barry got
I think
hired.
they already signed him.
Not yet.
Oh, okay. So they haven't signed.
That's a really good defensive staff. Like they're winning. Obviously, it sucks that Chris or Carl Scott, that's his name, right?
Well, Carl Scott went back to. He didn't go back to Seattle. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
So, it kind of sucks that we didn't get him, but still.
I mean, on paper, the staff is good. You can coach these guys up.
Yeah,
but they got to get some players, bro.
Yes, they do. It's a good thing you're going to have a crap ton of draft assets this year, and you're going to have a lot of money in free agency.
Yeah,
they will.
Yeah,
they should have a good amount anyway.
They should have a decent amount. I think it's like close to $50 million in cap space.
Around that, yeah.
That's like $100 million in Howie numbers.
Yeah,
that's also
true. I just want this when they have success again, which I believe they will. Literally take notes, take inventory of how you got there, so that way you can have sustained success.
Right.
Where it's not hanging on by it's not Bon Jovi living on a prayer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Genuinely hurt from time to time.
You feel what I'm saying?
He's in recovery, okay? Leave him alone.
I mean, I have not seen him on any show on any
I haven't either.
I hope he's okay.
Yeah, so do I.
He's probably working.
No, I'm just gonna be honest. None of us have ever experienced that type of pain in our life. Like sports wise. Like think about that your entire time.
03, Joe Jerry.
No, doesn't even can't compare.
I mean, you mean blowing a lead like that in a conference championship?
No, not even that. So they were garbage for 3 decades.
Oh,
the last time the Lions were relevant, Hogs were a thing, laser discs were a thing. Power Rangers were in prime time, and people were still using acetoners, okay? Like, that's the last time they were relevant. And then they finally get to a chance to go to the Super Bowl. They go to the playoffs. They win playoff games. They get their first road playoff game since, what, 93?
Something
and
like that,
they're up almost 17 points, and then they choke it away. My hair would be gray.
You almost choked literally.
PY, I think you're kind of showing your age because I think there are a lot of Eagles fans older than Pete and I that would severely disagree with you.
Sure, Eagles fans in their 70s.
Like I think that I think you're forgetting how abysmal and how dark the days of Eagles fandom was, in, 80s, 90s, and
you can go back to the early 90s.
Early 90s,
bad.
It was bad, and even from what I remember. So I started being a real fan of the Eagles early 2000s, right? Yeah. So, it's not like the weight of it didn't really hit me because like I said, I was only a fan for a few years, but knowing that we had never won a Super Bowl and getting to 4. Well, at the time it was 3 straight NFC Championship games, and you still strike out. That's pretty damn painful too, because you're right there, you're consistent, you're winning, and you can't get over the hump. And regardless of the Lions, I know they've had their a horrible history too, not being relevant, but it's still neither franchise won a Super Bowl. Right. So it's not we can't brag and say, oh no, we had it better because at least we were winning playoff games. Who cares? It doesn't matter. We still didn't have a Super Bowl, and so that's all we cared about. So it was still painful. I think that especially for older guys, for older fans, they'd argue against that, saying that Eagles fans don't know that type of pain. They know pain. It's right. It was painful all the way up to 2017. It was very very painful. And if you want proof, look at how many videos and testimonies from that Super Bowl win of fans crying and talking about all the
That's
the
crazy.
legacy. Oh yeah, everyone knows I cried. Like that video was out there, but like
Doing
legacy.
your camera impression.
But legacy of how many stories do we hear of Eagles fans talking about how they got their fandom from their father or their grandfathers and like those who have passed and waiting for them. Like, so you can't say that it weighed more for the Lions and we never felt that pain. Like the Eagles fans have felt that pain up until 2017. I don't want to. Let's not like discredit how pain like that we know what that feels like. We definitely know what that feels like.
Yeah, it's the euphoric feeling. If you watch Last Jinko Jeans, the euphoric feeling of 6 years ago now. Wow. Yeah, I remember when the ball finally dropped, I was just outside. The screen. I don't know if I was screaming. I was more in shock.
I was in my basement with like 10 different friends and we're just like drinking and I'm just like, oh god.
Dude, I bawled my eyes out. Like
So
at first it was excitement, and then I started to process it. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. It's and then that was 6 years ago. So
crazy.
This shows you, bro. It just like time flies, man.
You walk across that
time
goddamn
does
bridge
fly.
in boots.
It does. It absolutely does fly.
I cried at 05 too. I was pissed. I was
gonna say I feel like people were more mad than
I was pissed.
Oh my god. Let's talk we can talk about that because like I know on Twitter there was someone asked like what are the most painful how like they had 4 different scenarios, right? For the Eagles, 4 different losses. And they're like rank how painful these losses were. And for me, that Super Bowl 39 loss to the Patriots is still the most painful loss.
Okay.
For me. It's more painful than last year's Super Bowl loss. It's more painful than the 2008. Like that 2005, we should have freaking won that game. And it makes me even more mad that we know the Patriots cheated. Because just like that, that's so the fact that we were cheated out of that. You know what I mean? And
well, I mean, it doesn't help that your guy's throwing like 4 picks and he's like puking in the huddle and all this other crap. So, you know.
No, I know it doesn't help, but what I'm saying is like, you want to talk about painful. Like you were just talking about like, Lions fans painful. Like, again, up to that point, we had no Super Bowl win, right?
Yeah, right.
That team, with those stars, that coaching staff, T.O. coming back from a broken leg and playing in the Super Bowl and going off in the Super Bowl.
Buck 35, man.
Seeing that result, that game was absolutely like. There is one game where I refuse to watch like any of it still, and that's the game. I have not watched. I have not rewatched anything of that game. It's too painful for me.
Oh, I can't watch last year's Super Bowl. I don't think I'll ever watch it again.
See, last year's it doesn't hurt as bad as what the other Super Bowl that Chalk is referring to. Like I'm kind of just accepted it, but it is what it is, unfortunately.
So Greg was one of the. I mean, respectfully, Greg is obviously one of the older fans. He cried when the Eagles lost their first Super Bowl against the Raiders. Yeah, and he says, I hear you, Chucks, about Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Yeah, it makes it. I know that wasn't like an immediate thing we knew about, but years later when it did come out, my god,
everyone was pissed. I remember
so pissed, and I remember B West was being interviewed. I forget where, but I was listening to him, and like he didn't flat out say it. But even he alluded to like, it sucks that we were like paraphrasing his words, but he was saying like, it sucks that we got cheated out of that, knowing what happened because how everything played out. And then he was saying like second half, they knew all our calls, they knew everything. They knew so. I don't want to say everything, but they knew so many of the calls. It's insane. That's absolutely insane. I don't know. But that's the most painful for me. I still can't come to grips with it. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Let's pay some bills before we move on to the next segment. So remember, cameras off, and we'll see you on the other side.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, proudly celebrating 40 years and our new, bigger showroom.
Twice the size and twice the fun.
More pool tables by Olhausen. More dartboard sets, including custom reclaimed backboards. More bar and kitchen stools that can change a room.
And more bars, including pre-built and custom.
Hot tubs, skee ball, shuffleboard, outdoor,
and fun.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, your ultimate game room store. Now located on Bethlehem Pike in Colmar.
In our family, food is our daily bond. My nonna, affectionately called Mama by many, found solace and joy in the kitchen, sharing her love through delicious creations. She turned her culinary passion into a flourishing business alongside her husband and sons in 1983. Celebrating 40 years is a testament to our exceptional team, friends, family, and beloved customers. With gratitude, we look forward to the future, expanding our brand to share the highest quality Italian food and wine nationwide. Our heartfelt thanks to everyone who has played a part in our story. Grazie mille.
Hats.com is the premier destination for quality and fashion-forward hats and more, with designs for every style and trend. Locally based and run by Philly sports team fanatics, Hats.com can help you elevate your hat John. Utilize the easy-to-use guides at Hats.com to find your perfect size and style, and shipping and returns are free. Hats.com. Find yourself in a hat. Use code Philly for 15% off your order. Hats.com.
So head on over to hats.com. A2D sent you. Remember that. Let's get into. So I think there are other comments I wanted to touch on. I know we lost Jake for a second. He's having some technical difficulties. We're gonna try to get him back. Yeah, Martian. Yes, that's when the Patriots film practices. It was it was bad. And it wasn't just that Super Bowl too. Like there was numerous games.
The three they won. That's what happened.
Yep. You guys want to transition to Super Bowl talk?
I mean, we had a kickoff statement with Super Bowl, so let's transition to the big game. That's this Sunday. We could keep it short. We could keep it sweet. I mean, we can go into it a little bit. I'm not gonna, people are already complaining, doing this and doing that. One team is just, dude. They're going to be even worse. If they lose Sunday, it's going to be even worse.
Oh my God,
it's going to be even worse.
They're already complaining.
So did you hear that Kyle Shanahan, like, he was like, oh no, we're okay on the field. Like, he's already backtracking. Like, yeah. And I love what Ross Tucker did. He called it out. He was like, no, we know what you're trying to do. You're trying to, like, we know you leaked it out for a reason, and now you're trying to backtrack and act like it's all okay.
No, they know they're going to lose, and they're already trying to put out, like, reasons to why they didn't do their best. Like, I can already see it.
Yeah, it's funny. But here, let's do this. Let's put it this way. Let me ask you this question: who is under the most pressure for the Sunday's game out of either team? Who would you say is under the most pressure? I know my answer.
Kyle Shanahan, without a doubt.
Pete, what do you say? Pete, can you hear us? Oh, you're muted.
Niners all day. Niners.
Specifically one person. You gotta pick one person. Who's under the most pressure?
Under the most pressure?
Yes.
Coach Shanahan, player Purdy.
I agree with PY. It's Kyle Shanahan. This is what I'd say. I think they are. You probably know better than I, but are they the betting favorites right now?
Yes, they're favorites by at least 4.5 or 4 points. I think.
Right. So they are favorites.
So it went up. The early line was Chiefs +1. Now
last I saw is the Niners were favored by like 3.5, 4.
It's fucking stupid.
It's like you know it's bad with even Nick Wright. It's just like, what are they favored for? Because they've been favored in every game this year, and like he can't figure it out. And I'm like, I don't get it either. Like
I don't mind. No, I don't mind them being favored.
Right.
Because they've been a juggernaut, arguably the best team in the league, while the Chiefs have sputtered during the regular season. Okay, so I think it's appropriate that they are favored.
You think they're appropriate? They're favored based on what you've seen the last 2 weeks, based on who the Chiefs have beaten and how they've beaten them, and versus. I think
if you are factoring in everything, because I know the Chiefs have won on the road impressively, so I'm not.
Right.
I'll get to that part. Like I'll get to like, with my pick and everything. But and we're factoring in just like who should be favored, right? Like Vegas odds, whatever. The Chiefs have looked impressive because they're the Chiefs. We all know they're the great. They had very impressive wins, right? Especially on the road. Very impressive. I'm not taking any way from that. They should be in this game for a reason. Okay, no excuses. For the Niners, yeah, they got off to bad starts in both of their games, but in a sense, you still kind of have to give them credit for fighting their way back. That's two comeback wins in the playoffs like that. That is very difficult to do. And if we were to spin it, if the Eagles had done that in the playoffs, we'd be crediting the Eagles, and let's no one deny it. We'd be giving credit to the Eagles for pulling those comeback wins off. So, as questionable and beatable as the Niners have looked in the beginning of both their playoff games, they deserve credit for coming back and winning. All right. So I think, and you factor in the fact that like they have been like one of the top 3 teams all year, they should be favored. They absolutely should be favored. That's going to go into why I say Kyle Shanahan is under the most pressure, because now he is favored. Now he has his team. He has the quarterback that he put his stamp of approval on. He went with Purdy. He didn't go with Trey Lance, who they traded up for. They abandoned Trey Lance last year. We all know that. And he said, no, I want Purdy. He executes this offense the way I want it to be executed. So that's his QB. He has a roster that is outside of Hufanga, and I forget if there's one other key starter that they lost for the year. But like outside of that, they have all their most of the key players. 90% of the key players are healthy and playing, right? They are what they envision they should be right now. So if they believed last year was supposed to be the year and they got cheated out of it because Brock Purdy, got hurt and everything like that, now he's healthy. Now they're winning games. Now they're in the playoffs. This is the game. If he does not win this, if the Niners do not win this game, it's going to be hard for him to shed that choke. Like someone like me has still been able to defend him in certain spots. If he loses this game, there is absolutely no defending him. He cannot shake the choker status. He can't, because even with Andy Reid, I made the comparisons between the two before a lot, saying that Andy Reid was very innovative, with a great offensive mind, was a great coach who got to Super Bowl but couldn't win it, right? Like he couldn't win it before. There were a lot of parallels. Well, Shanahan, this is his second Super Bowl as a head coach. He's favored. If he loses it, he's absolutely a choker. Like he lost it. So there's no other. Even if Purdy, because if Purdy loses, right? If Purdy loses, it's okay, because I say that loosely. But
when I say pressure to perform, like that's all I was saying. Coach is Shanahan, but like as far as a pressure to perform to the standard that they've been playing throughout this year, because honestly, without Purdy really getting into his bag and playing above the system, which Kyle lost because he wants a QB to play within the system. Well, guess what, Kyle? If that was the case, Jimmy Garoppolo, you don't win that game. You don't even make out of the divisional round. So it took Purdy to take it into his own hands and play against the system. This is my thing, though. This is the best defense that they have played. And when I say that,
Yes.
I'm not just talking about from a personnel perspective. They're secondary, they're linebackers, and they can get after the passer a little bit. And then you got Spags over there. Like, listen, man, it's gonna be tough sledding too. But that's the one thing. When you look at the defense of the Niners, the divisional round, the conference championship round, they were able to move the ball on them. The Lions were able to move the ball. The Packers were able to move the ball. So what do you think Patrick Mahomes is going to do? Now, don't get me wrong. The Chiefs O-line isn't Detroit's O-line, but it's better than the Packers O-line.
Yeah.
And unequivocally, Patrick Mahomes is the better quarterback out of all of them.
Yep.
He's in a class box. And then, dude, it's just going to be good. I want the Chiefs to win so bad because I
do too. I do too.
I want the Niners just to feel. Listen. I just can't. I can't.
They don't deserve it. They're just a bunch of.
I wouldn't say that. It's just they just. I've never seen a team who wears all black, circles a game on their calendar almost 10 months in advance. Do what you said you were going to do to someone, but then still get mad and complain. Like even the Ayuk shit. When he was watching the Sports Center, he wasn't the top play overall.
Yeah.
Why are you mad? Like what are you mad about?
I hope he wasn't like mad. I hope he wasn't mad. If he was like joking mad, then I think it's funny. But if he was mad, then yeah, like why are you being that pissed off? Like, yeah. And I love Ayuk. We all love Ayuk the player, but like, yeah, I hope he wasn't like legit mad because
y'all got too much talent to do this and just shut up and play.
Well, I think from the bottom, from the top, like they all take over that person, take on the personality
of the coach.
Mm-hmm. Not even just I think ownership in general. Like it's just how they are. Like because like if Jeffrey Lurie was hearing that like every 2 minutes, like I think Jeffrey, like a few guys in the Eagles said it, but like it went away.
Right.
Like this wasn't like the middle of the season where like, well, if this happened, we would be Super Bowl champions.
Right.
Can you imagine if Jake Elliott was like, well, we would have won? Jeffrey Lurie would have had his ass in the office and be like, no, you're the kicker. Just go kick.
Robbie Gold made that comment, and then he wasn't back with the team. it's like okay.
It's like, all right, this is going too far. Like, we can't let you talk. It's just, bro. It's frustrating. It's frustrating, bro, because
their
accent. What accent?
They I think Ross Tucker made a great point. Is that like they could be such a likable team if they didn't whine all the time. Like I think if they had taken last season's loss with dignity and just took it respectively, right? I don't think like Eagles fans would have cared. Like I don't think like we would. I think a lot of us would be rooting for them this Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna say everyone, but like I think you'd see a lot of Eagles fans like, okay, like they're a good team. The Brock Purdy story is a good story. Like Kyle Shanahan's a good coach. He deserves to win one. I think Debo's an entertaining player. Brandon Ayuk is underrated. George Kittle is really good. Like I think there's so many likable players. CMC obviously. A lot of likable players in the sense that like if you just took out the whining, people would root for them. But like they're whining about something. The whining makes them unlikable. The constant like bitching about stuff. Sorry, I apologize, but like the constantly biatching about stuff and like BS here, BS there. Like it's annoying. That's why people don't like them. That's why people are rooting for them.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be good. I like the Chiefs. I think Chiefs don't have the most talented roster, but they're the most.
Is number 15 playing? That's all that matters.
They're the best team. Like, and honestly, like, what team do you know that wins the Super Bowl and really doesn't lose anybody? They lost
a down year. This is a down year for Mahomes. This is a down year for the Chiefs. They have absolutely nobody at wide receiver. And you know what? He's going to win his third Super Bowl.
You see, they had to take his dad off the board, boy. It's like,
He took himself off the board, bro.
I would say to stop speaking so confidently about the win, because part of me is like, he's freaking jinxing them. Like PY is like so confident and like guaranteeing it, and I'm starting to get a little worried. So
I thought the same thing. I'm like, okay, maybe they're not. Maybe like if this guy is too confident.
Look, man, when you whoop Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson on the road, like all bets
they didn't whoop Josh Allen for one.
Yeah,
it was wide right part 2.
Wide right.
Yeah, yeah. That was a close game. That wasn't a whooping.
Like I said, God hates Buffalo.
Yeah, God hates Buffalo.
He does hate Buffalo. You can't make me disbelieve that.
Let's see what else. Anything with Super Bowl. I mean, you want to give like predictions, score predictions?
Score predictions is way too hard because it's a Super Bowl, bro. That's why they have blocks.
Yeah.
That's why you have block pools, because it's just too hard.
I'll make a funny score prediction. I'll say 49ers 49, Chiefs 58.
Have you been drinking over there?
Say what?
Have you been drinking?
49ers 49. 49ers 49, Chiefs 58.
The field is going to be trash again.
So, dude, you're saying this is going to be the highest scoring game in NFL history, is what you're saying?
It's a joke. I'm saying it as a joke. I'm saying it only because 49ers score 49 points, because obviously, and then Chiefs score 58 because it's Super Bowl 58. That's the only reason why.
That's why I thought you was going with it.
Yeah, it's just joking. I don't really believe that. Yeah, but
I'm gonna say, because the Chiefs are going to want to keep it low. I'm going to say, just to throw a score out there, Chiefs 29, Niners 21.
Okay.
And I may or may not have those numbers in the block pool. Cannot confirm.
I can't do blocks anymore, because like it's
did
all
one
luck.
time. That was it.
I hate that it's all luck. There's no skill involved. Like you just go pick a number, pick a block.
Figure it out. See what happens, man.
Yeah, I can't do that. I don't. If I wanted to do that so bad, I just go to go play roulette. That's what it is. It's just chance.
There's skill in that.
Greg says Chiefs 34, Niners 27.
I'm like Chiefs 34, Niners 17.
Jeez, okay. I don't think it's that. I don't think it'll be that much of a ball, but we'll see. We shall see.
It's different, because I feel like when these teams played 4 years ago, exactly 4 years ago, I feel like the Chiefs are the team that has evolved the most from a philosophical aspect, to where I think Shanahan still has his rules, still has his ways, still has his scheme, and just may have better players to execute it. But where I feel as if the Chiefs could throw more wrinkles, because listen, even up until the playoffs started, they wasn't running the ball as much. You could almost say the Chiefs is a run first team now with Pacheco. Like, they're running the ball. Even Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he looks like he has fresher legs. You feel what I'm saying? So they are playing a different brand of football than what they've been putting on tape. And it could be because of personnel, like PY said, they just don't have the skill position players there. I like Rashee Rice. And if Vontaze Scantling can catch the damn football, he will get behind you.
Yeah.
He will.
He caught that clutch game ender against the Ravens. Like, that's a pass he dropped. Yeah.
So I mean, it's not going to be outlandish, man. And like I said, Purdy should have 4 picks.
Yep. Yeah. These guys aren't dropping them. Like, this is like Ladarius Sneed is not dropping that. Nick Bolton is not dropping
Trent
that.
McDuffie, Juan Thornhill. Mm-hmm. Their secondary is they just play dime. Now, and here's the problem. The one way where I think Shanahan can really take control of the game is he has to commit to running the ball. But Christian McCaffrey, every series is on taking a blow to go get iced down or get his calf rubbed. Like you can't. I mean, could you theoretically just thrust is it Elijah Mitchell as the backup?
Yeah,
you could, but I mean, nah.
He hasn't gotten much work, so I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be a good one. We're going to watch. I mean, I'm more excited as a kid who has watched this dude USHERRAYMOD from his first album, 12 years old. The halftime show in Vegas. Listen, dude, like I can't. That's when I start feeling old. When I'm like, damn, I remember this dude's first album now. Now this bitch is almost pushing 50. Like,
God, dude.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
a lot of things thrown on stage. Let's just say that.
I mean, but it's Vegas. It's going to be a good presentation. Who's singing the national anthem?
I know. I remember.
PYU. I thought you would know this.
No, I have no idea.
Is Taylor pulling double duty?
I don't think so. Do I think they could possibly pull her in for one song at the halftime show? I could 100% see that happening.
Reba McEntire.
Oh, that's gonna be fire. That is gonna be fire.
I'm taking the under.
No, take the over. Always take the over with Reba.
He can serenade Kiki in front of me and then walk off, and then I can pick up the scraps.
Kiki.
I'll take my shoes off like and You Make Me Want a video. If somebody could tell, so this I don't know people really like. If somebody can tell me the shoes that Usher took off for the Make Me Want a video at the end, not just the brand, but tell me whose signature shoe that was, and I'll give you a hint. It's the shoe is of the player who has a tie to Michael Jordan, presently through relations not of his own.
Scottie Pippen?
Were the Pippins?
They were the Pippins. The Pippen total
really?
up-tempo. Yes.
Wow. Yep. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Did not know that. The one shoe I remember the most out of Usher because he made them cool were the wheelies. Remember when he wore for You Don't Have to Call? He actually wore the wheelies. Mm-hmm. After that, I was like, all my friends, we wanted to get wheelies. After that, because
everyone I knew had wheelies just because we're wheeling in the hallway, man.
They banned them from high schools. Oh, I remember they're like you can't. Well, no, like you could wear them, but you can't wheelie in the hallways. They banned that. Oh God, back in the day. Yeah, I'm excited. I wonder if he's gonna have anyone else with him on stage.
I definitely think we get Ludacris and Little John for
Yeah.
I hope so. Please, I really hope so.
PY did not have black Air Force Ones. PY did have black Allen Iverson sneakers that were a size too big.
The black and gold ones.
The black and white ones.
The black and white ones.
So you know what's funny? I had black Air Force Ones. I got them 1 year because obviously you know my wardrobe's all black, right? But I wanted Air Force Ones, so I'll buy black Air Force Ones. So I had them for I want to say at least 3 years. The one time I wore them was for the Super Bowl when we won the Super Bowl. So I'm wearing them out on.
Did you wear them last year?
No, hold on. For the Super Bowl when we won Super Bowl 52. I wore them that game. I wore them out for the celebration on Broad Street, and then I wore them during the parade. During the parade, I was one of the first people in front of the art museum, if you remember correctly. So I was in front of the art museum at 3 a.m. One of the first people there. So, and if you know, where everyone was gathered, it was originally grass. But because everyone was there, that quickly turned into mud. I got mud all over my Air Force Ones. I have never worn them ever since then.
You're the reason why we lost last year.
I never wore them again. I'm like, all right, I got one of them. I don't want to. They're a one-time thing. I wore them for the Super Bowl.
I got a pair of limited edition Eagles Super Bowl cleats that I wear every once in a while. They're like cleat shoe combo. So like for like playoffs and stuff like that, I'll bust them out.
Before we get into the list, I'm gonna just hop into this real quick. Mike Dunn says the Eagles are going to Brazil. This is awesome. This is not the Lego Everything is Awesome theme song. I will say that. But I mean, if you're going to do it in any week,
might as well week one.
Might as well be week one to get it out.
Week one, yeah.
I have a few friends from Brazil. I'm like, oh, we're coming to your country, and she's like, who? And I'm like, the Birds. And I said, because somebody like made a picture of like the Brazilian flag with like the eagle logo on the bottom. It's so cool.
Now, I will say this from what I've heard. If anybody who's visiting Brazil or wants to go to that game, stick to the resorts, be very minimalistic. Don't flash anything because they will get your
Yes.
Sao Paulo isn't all the Brazil beaches you think it is.
It's the same thing when you're going to Mexico. Like you stay at the resorts and like you don't stray too far away because you're a tourist and you are an easy target.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, isn't it the same for like Jamaica too? Like Jamaica.
Well, a lot of these countries,
certain spots in Jamaica. Yeah, I mean any foreign country that you go to, you just don't do certain things.
And also remember, read up on the laws of the country before you go there because you don't want a nice Canaan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, but
I'm not going. For one, I don't have the money to go. Two, it's week one in South America. It's going to be hot. Like it's going to be very, very, very hot and humid. So I would not want to go to that game. But
what time zone is that? Eastern time zone too?
I don't remember. I just know it's Friday night. I personally, I don't have a problem with the game. Like, would I have preferred it? No, but like, if we have to play an international game, like the U.S. said, it's week one. We had 9 home games, so with this being one of the home games, it's an even split. So we can't really complain about that. And it's the first Brazil game. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, I know people are like mad about it. I don't see what the huge problem is. If it's not your preference, not your preference. But I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like it is what it is, and I think it's not unfair because again, it's our 9th home game, so I don't think it's that big a deal. Unless you got a kick-ass tour guide like me.
Well, Todd, you never know, man. Never know. All right, do we have a list, PY?
I do have a list.
Okay. Well,
cool. Oh, wait! Before we get to the list, one more Eagles-related topic. I want to get your opinions on.
No.
So
he said
I tweeted out video of Asante Samuel in an interview on YouTube. You can go see it on YouTube.
Homie.
Did you guys watch it in totality, the whole video?
Yes, I watched all 11 minutes, and I'm not surprised by any of it.
No, I did not. I watched like the first few minutes.
It's essentially saying that Donovan McNabb wasn't held to a higher standard and was Andy Reid and Andy Reid finding his way pretty much. And
none of that surprises me in the slightest.
Donovan able to be
Donovan got handled with kid gloves.
PY, if you didn't watch the thing, I'll summarize it. So Asante was pretty much saying that when he first came over here and he was observing practice, well, part of the practice is they have the offense do they practice some plays without the defense on the field so they can just practice executing it, right? So, and I guess this is for anyone that didn't listen to the clip, right? So, the Eagles during practices would have their offense on the field for certain drills, and typical Donovan McNabb fashion, there would be throws where he'd throw it into the dirt passes, right? And
so the McNabb special.
So yeah, the McNabb special. So that would happen. He would miss a wide open wide receiver with no defense on the field. He would throw it to the ground, but no one would do anything. None
Right.
like coaches wouldn't stop. They wouldn't have to repeat it or anything. And to Asante, coming from New England would have had to repeat that until it's perfected.
They would have repeated that shit 50 times.
Coming over to the Eagles, seeing that, he was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" So, he went up to ask Andy Reid about it, and he was just saying like why, how come no one's saying anything? And Andy Reid, per Asante's quote, this is Asante saying, he says, Andy looked me in the eye and said, "Asante, that's up to you guys. That's your responsibility as leaders of the football team. You have to hold the other players accountable." And Asante was like, "So you ain't gonna say nothing?" Like, so he was just like,
I like how Chuck tried to put a little flavor on that.
So he was just dumbfounded, like, wow, you're not gonna correct Donovan McNabb for all of this. And he wasn't trying to take shots at Andy. He was saying that Andy is such a players coach, he put that on the players to have to do. But again, like, they weren't on Donovan McNabb. And then so as a result, he used the NFC Championship game against the Cardinals as an example. He said that there were 3 plays where Donovan had a wide open receiver. And I went back and I watched it. There were definitely, he said there were 3 plays to Deshaun. One of them wasn't to Deshaun.
That's the one part I was like, now I'm gonna go back and watch that game because he hit him on one.
He hit one, but there was
that was underthrown too, though.
There was one in I think it was first or second quarter. I forget which quarter actually. I think it was still late first quarter. He had Hank Basket, and Hank Basket, there was no safety over the top. The safeties both bit one way. Hank Basket was doing a crossover the other way. He was wide open. Now, considering it's Hank Basket, he probably wouldn't.
Hey, he was good at that point.
So he probably wouldn't have taken it to the house, but it would have been a huge gain, right? And they were deep in their own territory. So if you rip off that big gain, that could have been a totally different game. But he missed. Hank Basket was wide open in the middle of the field on deep crosser, and he threw it low. Hank Basket still caught it, but because it was a bad throw into the ground, Basket had to just go down, and it wasn't a big gain. It was just like, your typical like I think it's a 15 yards, something like that. And he was saying there were like 3 throws where McNabb hit, threw the McNabb specials to the ground, and he was saying like if McNabb had hit at least one of them, it could have been a different game. And so like it was just, and then he said also other things. He said other things on how like when he first came to the team, he saw that McNabb and him had some similarities and stuff like that. And he was trying to, he wanted to hang out with McNabb and say like, hey, like, give me your number and whatnot. And McNabb got his number, and McNabb ghosted him after that. He never hung out with him.
Let me fill in the blanks that you could say, but you don't want to say.
Go ahead, you can say.
He was like, all right, listen, I'm a black dude at the top of my craft. This is one of the top black quarterbacks in the league. Yep. He married to a black woman. I'm married to a black woman. So I chop it up with him. Hey, like, man, like my wife want to know where to get her hair done, where your wife get her hair done at. Maybe I'll take your number. You get my number, this, that, and the third. All right, bet. McNabb says, all right, give me a number. Never heard from McNabb because he said, give me a number because I want a recommendation for my wife where my wife can get her hair done. McNabb never hit him up.
Yeah, is anyone really surprised at that? This is the same guy whose teammate made it to the Pro Bowl for the first time ever at 2 separate positions, looks at Mike Vick and says, this guy?
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
that's not surprising. Like, not to mention all the sus things he's done off the field. Like, it's the least surprising thing ever.
Yeah, and then toward the end, he mentioned how, like, Asante's brother went out to a party, right? And McNabb was there, and when Asante's brother came back, he was telling Asante, yo, like, McNabb was nuts. Like, he was going, like, he was on top of the bar tables and, like, going all out. So, like, that kind of, like, no shock, right? Because we've all heard stories about McNabb and how he would get drunk and everything like that. So, like, none of this.
This still holds true to that track to this day.
It's the reason why he ain't working at ESPN no more.
Yeah, exactly. And Marcus also, Asante also said Andy Reid is the greatest coach of all time. So yeah, he wasn't. Some people are trying to make it out like, oh,
no, like he wasn't bashing Andy. He was just being truthful.
Right.
Yeah, and I think I think he's trying to like there is fault on Andy, but I think it's more so like, hey, like McNabb wasn't the perfect like McNabb was a big reason why this team was held back. Much he was a big reason why they were great, right? There's a big reason why we talked about earlier. Big reason why the Eagles were in the playoffs consistently, after year, a playoff team, number 1 seed, number 2 seed, right? But he's also the reason why they didn't win a Super Bowl. I think both can be very true. Right? Like, would you guys disagree? Like, he's a big reason they were good because he was a really good quarterback, but they're also a reason why they weren't a Super Bowl champion because
there's a reason when they talk about the best QBs of the 2000s, he doesn't really get the love that most people think he would.
People have to bring him up. He's not on the top of their mind.
No, like you're thinking of like 2000s QBs, like you don't ever think of him. Like,
I mean, you do, but you think of 10 other people before.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Like,
yeah, exactly. And like, people make a case for it because of his numbers. He should be in the Hall of Fame. You put his numbers against every other quarterback during the era, they're not that great. They're good, but they're not that great. And like, I think it's funny because it's still going off. People are like liking it on Twitter, but they a lot of people are like, well, no, he was never given help. He never had wide receivers.
We had it, and then I told him to go after.
Hold on. I don't understand how people can defend him, his play, and then the type of person he is. Like,
the type of person he is, but let's look at it. So yes, overall, Andy Reid never brought in highly talented wide receivers to the Eagles. That is true. However, the one time he did with T.O.,
his best year.
They went to the Super Bowl, and then they had the famous feud, right? Because McNabb couldn't. McNabb, part of it was because McNabb's ego couldn't stand that T.O. was getting a lot of popularity too. That's on McNabb. Like that's
he got the love that McNabb thought he should have gotten.
Yeah, McNabb had a huge deal, and like for me too. Like I always hated it because like. I was like, I've never been a huge T.O. fan either because I think T.O. is also very immature. But for me, I'm one of the ones that was just like, yo, the real star of that team was freaking Brian Westbrook.
Yep.
He's like the only weapon you have. He's annihilating defenses left and right as the only guy. Like defenses know they only have to stop Brian Westbrook, and they still can't stop him. He's still tearing it up. He's the only weapon on the. But like. It's all about McNabb. It's all about McNabb. McNabb has to be the
longer this thing goes on, the less crazy. Every year, T.O. looks less crazy, in my opinion. Like when it comes to that feud, like every year, like something comes out, and you're just like, man, he was a little cuckoo, but.
And the other thing is the biggest thing is Donovan never had success anywhere else after that.
Yep.
Once T.O. left. T.O. still had success. He was probably arguably the best wide receiver in 2006 when he went to the Cowboys. He still had productive years in Buffalo. So he was productive before he got here. He was productive when he got here, and he's productive after.
Yeah.
And really, you don't really hear anything else bad about T.O. from another teammate perspective. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys and the Niners. Like,
but like none of his teammates say anything bad about him.
Right. Nobody's talking about T.O. how Asante talked about Donovan today.
Oh yeah, no, not like that. But they did have their complaints about him.
Oh yeah, because he was just a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Let's not act like he's an angel, but like I get
what he's asking.
Yeah.
But nobody else is going on like 3-hour podcasts like crapping on him like they are.
Yeah. I'll say this before. I've said it a million times. I think that everyone deserved equal blame in that feud, and I'll stick by that. Like McNabb. I'm not even the biggest McNabb fan. I'm really not. I never liked him. So like he deserves his share of the blame. T.O. definitely deserves his share of the blame, and Andy deserves his share of the blame. They all three of them have their blame in what happened. So
if you could go back and you could say, if all the parties involved can redo something differently, what's the one thing that they would choose to redo?
The contract.
Do you think they would have resigned? They would have resigned T.O. and gave him what he wanted.
Here's the thing. Like my whole thing with that is if after he signs a waiver, knowing full well he could sustain severe damage playing on this leg, and he has 135 yards on like one leg, and he comes and he's like, guys, my contract from the previous team, I just don't think it's up to snuff. I had a career year. I caught 135 yards in the Super Bowl. And you don't even sit down and be like, you know what? Let's look at this. Let's see what we can do. Even if we don't fix the contract and give you a new one, we can rework it to add in a few more incentives for you. Just something.
Yeah, I think it's so tough to say like one thing. So like, if I'm gonna say what each party was at fault for, one, they should have restructured his contract. They should have. T.O. deserves more money. He deserves, like, I don't think there's anything wrong for him to ask more, ask for a new contract and more money, because as we've seen, like, what do I always say? 99% of the time, you always side with the players when it comes to money because you have to get yours, right? So like, he deserved a better contract, but the Eagles didn't give it to him. McNabb should have backed him up. McNabb, as the face of the team, should have been in his corner, and he had leeway. McNabb had influence. So McNabb should have stood up for T.O. and said, you have to pay him because he is a difference maker on this team. You have to pay him. McNabb never did. He never stuck up for him because, again, his ego was way too big. The final piece, T.O., I think with how T.O. is, he made the situation much worse because of how he is, how immature he is. He did not de-escalate. Yeah, exactly. Like, a mature player knows how to deal with it in-house and how to be mature about something. With how T.O. is, he made it so much worse to where it just exploded. All the end.
The second he did that interview, where it's like, "Oh, we don't even need him." Like, that was it. Like, that was just like, because I think he had tried to be a really good teammate and stay under the radar, but like the second he heard that, he's just like, "Are you serious?"
I'm not saying he shouldn't have been mad, but you still, like, there are ways to handle that. Still,
it should have been inflammatory.
He shouldn't have escalated the way he did. Like, there's a reason why we don't see a lot of antics the way that T.O. does, because like everyone knows that there's a sense of maturity, professionalism you have to go through in this business, and like just because one party or two other parties act a certain way and ill toward you, it doesn't give you the right to act badly either. You know what I mean? So like, that's why I always say they're all equal or fine. I know like there are a lot of my friends who disagree and like say like, how can you say that? Like T.O. deserves a contract. T.O. absolutely deserves a contract, but you don't act immature just because you don't get your way. That's not. And
we don't.
The thing that bugs me, the thing that bugs me about both of them right now is it's been 20 years. And they still don't let this go. Whenever there's an interview, they still talk about how the other person's to blame. Like, you don't have to be buddy-buddy with each other. But, like, let it go. It's 20 years.
For a really long time, like, he didn't even, like, T.O. wasn't really saying anything about it. And then McNabb came out and he started doing a few interviews. And then he was just like, what? I thought we were...
No. T.O.
wasn't it the one where he was shooting pool first and he brought it up? Bleacher Report.
That was one of them. But no, there were interviews before that. I remember also listening to one specific interview he had on the Fanatic when I was still listening to Dial, and they interviewed T.O. and he would still deflect blame and still like point the finger at McNabb, point the finger at the Eagles organization. So like it wasn't just a Bleacher Report thing. There were multiple times before that, years before that, where T.O. still pointing the finger elsewhere instead of taking accepting blame for himself. And that's the immaturity I'm talking about. Yeah, that's the immaturity I'm talking about. Like, it's 20 years ago, like it's like drop it, like just own up to it. Like, I think we've all had instances in our lives we look back on like 10 plus years ago where we were wronged, but then we can also say like, hey, I also messed up. Right? Like we swallow our pride and say, I messed up. Like I could have done things differently, and we kind of let it go. That's part of being an adult, right? And
yeah, it's weird, bro. I will say this, like this it may shock people, it may not shock people. I think at that time they should have obviously I think they should have re-signed him, but they also should have realized they should have moved off Donovan. They should have realized not been scared to move off of Donovan at that point. Because the roster was just that good. And if you keep you re-sign them, you keep Westbrook, you re-sign them. Yeah, they should not have been scared to move off of.
And Pete, this is like it's a little silly to think, but like the evidence to your point was the 2006 season, because when he tore his ACL, the Eagles were right back into the playoffs with Jeff Garcia and Brian Westbrook.
There's multiple times where they were fine with
that team showed that McNabb might not be the best or most important player on that team. Like he really wasn't. This is why I'm always like, people always like, they laugh because Westbrook's my favorite player. I always will stand, like I'll stand for him. But like, look at Westbrook's reputation and look at what that team did with Westbrook. Look at how he carried them even without McNabb. Like when McNabb went down, he took up to his game to a next level and became an elite running back. Look what they did with Westbrook that year. And in the following year, Westbrook led the league in yards from scrimmage. That's the only weapon. He had like Reggie Brown and I forget who else on the team. And he led the league in yards from scrimmage. He was their only weapon. He carried that team more so than McNabb did. And then like it always bothers me that he doesn't get that recognition, because a lot of reasons was because McNabb was the face. He wanted to be the face. He wanted the spotlight. And it's unfortunate. But like, it's even not just a disservice to even Westbrook. Like, there were so many great players on those teams, guys. Like, many great players on defense, and like we obviously know about Brian Dawkins. Like, there are so many great players that deserve credit for making that team as a whole a great team. I mean, we don't even talk about Jim. We haven't even mentioned Jim Johnson, the late great Jim Johnson. Like how he did that defense. Like there's so much that went to the success of the Eagles beyond just McNabb. So that's what I'll say about that. But Martian's begging for the list. So let's get to the list then.
Something to look forward to.
Something. Top 5 things.
Oh yeah, that's not what it is. I just said it's something to look forward to.
Oh, that was your topic. All right. What is your 5 this week?
PY's 5 trade targets.
Ooh.
Interesting. Trade targets.
I'm listening, sir.
So, number 5. Joey Boss, I think it's Boswell.
You talking about Joey
the Broncos, the linebacker.
Isn't it Josie Jewell?
I thought it was Joswell.
No, I think it's Josie Jewell.
You talking about hold on. I know Josie Jewell.
Yeah. He's an outside linebacker, I think.
Yeah, he's
how do you not know the names? Hold on.
Because I wrote it down.
Can't read his handwriting.
Hold on. Linebacker, I'll look it up.
I think it's Josie Jewell.
Boswell?
Yeah,
no, there's no Boswell.
It's Josie Jewell.
Okay. See.
We're off to a great start, guys.
We are. We're off to a fantastic start.
Oh, my God. He doesn't even know the freaking name. Josie Jewell. Okay.
We need linebackers more than we need oxygen at this point. So, and I think Denver is a mess, and they're going to sell soon. So, Greg Newsome.
Corner out of
Greg Newsome.
Former first-round pick.
Yep.
Yeah,
so he did sign an extension, but I think Emerson is starting to look like a shutdown corner over there, and I think Newsome could end up being expendable.
I like Newsome. I do like Newsome. I liked him in that draft. He was one of my favorite prospects in the draft. So, all right, go ahead. 3.
Tariq Woolen.
I think his name
that's not happening.
I think,
but okay.
No, here's my reasoning. I don't think him and Seattle are seeing eye to eye right now, and the fact that
he can't tackle.
This is true, but I also think that they would just not play him for periods of time. I don't know if that's going to sit with him.
If you just hire Mike McDonald, I don't think he wants to get. He probably don't want to try to iron that out with Tariq Woolen before they move forward. Yeah. I can see them being a landing spot for Brian Burns too. By the way.
Oh yes, yeah. Please, oh my God, they need that. I would
love Brian Burns here. He'd be nice. It's why the Panthers are idiots.
They drafted him. They just don't know how to keep players.
Well, they also need to know when to get rid of
but then that's it.
Jeffrey Simmons.
You gotta be moving off of Jordan Davis or somebody like that.
You're gonna trade for Jeffrey Simmons when you have Davis and Carter?
I'm not giving up both. I would give up Davis.
Give up picks. I wouldn't care. I'd be like,
yeah, you're not just gonna get. I mean, you probably got to give up Davis and picks.
I don't know. Trading for Simmons will cost a lot.
It's going to cost a lot.
And then you have 3 D tackles when you can only really play 2 at a time for most. I don't know. I don't know if that's smart. And I like Jeffrey Simmons a lot, but I think it's overkill. I think it's. I don't know how you're going to play all 3, but whatever. What's your list?
Number 1. Patrick Surtain.
I mean,
yeah. It's just realistic.
It's I want happy things. I want to shut down corner. What?
I said I object. Not.
I want happy things again. I want a nice cornerback room that doesn't make me depressed.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. That would be a dream come true. But I'm more inclined for what Fangio wants is probably going to be, if he's traded for anybody from Denver, it's probably going to be Simmons. If they're going to give him a moment to listen and he's going to have their ear, if there's somebody you can get out of Denver, it's probably going to be Simmons, who is probably more parallel to Brian Dawkins off the field than most because of how he lives his life.
Yeah.
Very faith-centric, very family-oriented, doesn't cuss a lot, but when you get him on the field, he's a different animal.
Wants to put person through multiple layers of the ground.
Is this true?
What? Oh yeah, that happened earlier.
Christian Parker.
Christian Parker. He's going to be their passing coordinator.
2 days ago. I think that's why the certain rumors are here because we hired him, but I don't see it happening with Surtain. But I would love it. I wouldn't complain. That
your
one
lack
scenario
of faith disturbing.
The one scenario that was brought, I think Bleacher Report brought it up, were Surtain for Josh Sweat, our 2024 first rounder, and then a 2024 fifth. I would do that in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would absolutely do that in a heartbeat. Don't think it's going to happen, though.
Yeah.
Don't think that's going to happen.
All right, the bar is set so low.
I like your list in terms of who's at 1, who's at 3, who's at 4. I question 2, and I'm giving you a penalty on 5 because you didn't even know his name. So, I mean, I'm not going to give you that. It wasn't even close either. He's you said Boswell?
He said Josie. I think he said Joswell. He's trying to put the last name and the first name together.
God. All right. Well, overall, decent list. Anything else you guys have for today before we
Bit ado.
pack it up?
No, everybody just be safe and responsible this weekend. Enjoying the game because our asses do gotta go to work the next day for the most of us. This is why I'm always a big proponent of the Super Bowl should be moved to Saturday night.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I literally had the same conversation with my mom.
Or just make Monday a freaking holiday and give everyone off.
That won't happen.
People can't get off of their own religious holidays. You think they're going to give them off for Super Bowl Monday?
Christopher damn Columbus has his own holiday.
Excuse me, it's Indigenous Person Day now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really. Christopher Columbus is probably the furthest thing removed from that Indigenous People Day. So,
that is we're trying to forget him as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, I mean, you already have. This is like we've already seen stories about schools closing the next day because of the Super Bowl.
Dude, we can't make election day a holiday. You think we're going to make the Super Bowl post Super Bowl day a holiday? Come on now.
We should. I'm not saying it will. I'm saying we should.
I would agree with that. I think both should have off. I'm fine with that. You'd have a lot more.
That's all I'm
people.
saying. I don't think. I think that the more realistic scenario is if you move it to Saturday, but I still don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to move it to Saturday. They're going to always have it for Sunday. That's why I suggested, like, if you want it on Sunday, just make Monday have off for everyone. Make it a freaking holiday. But that's what I've always been pushing that. I've said it for years. I said Super Bowl is a holiday. So that's me.
Yep.
Mr. OGP, you want to sign us off?
So for the boy PY, for the boy Chucks, I'm OGP. Sorry I was a little late. A little family issue, but everything seems to be somewhat okay from what I know and the information I have. So for those out there, go Pacheco, go fam, go Chiefs, Chiefs Nation.
Go Chiefs.
40 whiners. No. Boo. Boo.
Swizzle.
Boo. And yes, hashtag we want Cody. I still love you to rock. But for that, this is ATD Radio. Follow us everywhere. Like, share, subscribe on all social platforms. If you catch the podcast, do us a favor. If you like what you hear, give a rating, leave a review. It helps out a lot. Until the next time, ATD Wednesday night tomorrow. We out. Peace.